page. Thank you. So Dvorim is, in English, is translated as Deuteronomy, which I never knew what that meant, because you had, Bereshis is Genesis, which I knew Genesis, it's the beginning. Exodus is they're leaving the Egypt. Leviticus, even Vayikra is called Leviticus, because it's all about, in the Medrash is called Torah Halavim, because it's all about the the Korbanos and Levim and the Kohanim and everything else. Bamidbar is called Numbers, which is not called desert, it's called Numbers, Bamidbar, because they're being counted constantly. And then Deuteronomy, then Dvorim is called Deuteronomy, which I never knew what that meant, because they got deutered. I don't know what it would have been deutered. So then, until I realized, do you know what Deuteronomy comes from? It actually comes from the word deuce, because it's called in the Medrash Mishnah Torah, the repeat of the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu repeats many of the laws of the Torah. There are some new laws which apparently apply on a nationalistic level, as opposed to Rav Hirsch, as opposed to individual level. But a lot of it is a repeat of things that have already happened to the Jewish people through the course of the history. So the book of Devarim begins with Moshe Rabbeinu giving the Jewish people some musar, and the musar, rebuke, is going to be in page 9938. The rebuke is going to be what's called a remez. He's going to be alluding to it. He's going to allude to it. He's not going to say it directly. He's not going to say a direct frontal assault. And it has to do with the nature of rebuke in general. The nature of rebuke is such that one has to be very, very careful when you rebuke somebody. When you rebuke them, how you rebuke them, what the results are going to be. Is it the right time to rebuke them, and so on and so forth. So it starts like this: Eile hadvorim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. This is what Moshe spoke. And by the way, we're going to need to do a lot of Rashis here, because that Rashi is certainly in the beginning, where he tells you what many of these things allude to. Eile hadvorim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever hayarden, ba'midbar, in the desert, ba'arava, out in the, how does he translate it? He just calls it the Araba. Mol suf bein paran vein tofel v'lovan v'chatzeros v'di zahav. These are names, theoretically, the names of places. So, first of all, the Eila is 36. Eila is 36, the first word. And it's going to be 36 days from the time that Moshe Rabbeinu speaks right now until his death, which is 36 days later. So Eile HaDvorim, this is where Moshe Rabbeinu speaks, it's going to be for 36 days, number one. Number two, the word Dvorim is if you take out the vowels, it could be read as Devorim. What's a Devora? What's a Devora? Anyway, that's Dvorim. That's Ledaber. What's a Devora? A bee. A bee. What's the common denominator? A bee. A Dvora is a bee. A hornet, a wasp, a bee stings. What's the common denominator between Moshe Rabbeinu giving rebuke and a bee? Stings. They both sting. Getting rebuke, nothing hurts more than getting rebuked. In that way, everybody likes to project themselves as a successful, almost perfect human being. Nobody likes to be told off. Nobody enjoys being told off. Here, Rashi brings down the Medrash that Moshe Rabbeinu rebukes them before he dies. And he says that according to this, if you rebuke a person for 4 reasons. Let's take a look at Rashi. Take a look at Rashi. And by the way, that's the common denominator of the bee. When a bee stings, what happens? After he stings, the bee dies, right? That's what they used to tell us anyway. His stinger breaks off and the bee dies. And he's still willing to do it. So take a look at Rashi. It's Where does Rashi say it here? 1 second. Where's the Rashi? So Rashi says a 4. 1 second. Oh, it's on Pasuk Gimel. It's on Pasuk Gimel. Skip ahead to look at the Rashi. Just look at the Rashi on Pasuk Gimel. It's a left column. It's a left column. Six lines from the bottom. Left column of Rashi, 6 lines from the bottom. 938. Milamed shelo chichan alasamach lamisa. He rebuked them close to death. Mimi lamad. Who did Moshe Rabbeinu learn this from? Mi Yaakov. He learned it from Yaakov Avinu. Shelo chiach es benav elasamach lamisa. Yaakov rebuked his sons right before close to dying. Omar. Yaakov Avinu said to himself, Ruvain beni. Ani omer lecha mipnei malo hachachlicha kol hashanim halolu. Why didn't I rebuke them all these years? Why did Yaakov wait to rebuke? Remember, Reuven got involved with moving the beds around. Why did Yaakov wait he didn't say anything till right before he died? Kidei shelo tanicheni v'telech v'ditbak be'esav achis. You shouldn't leave me and go join up with Esav. We're talking about Reuven, one of the tribes. You see what a danger, left column, 6 lines from the bottom. What a danger rebuke at the wrong time is that he's worried that Reuven will forsake him and he'll join up Uncle Esav. There are 4 reasons why you only rebuke a person close to death. Number 1, so you don't rebuke him and then you say, I told you, and then you tell him again, and you tell him again, and you tell him again, and you keep laying it on thick. And so the other guy that you rebuke shouldn't see him and then be embarrassed. How do you like that? Once you rebuke somebody, I can't look you in the eye anymore. I can't. Once you rebuked me for doing something wrong, I can't. I'm too embarrassed. You caught me out. You caught me doing something wrong. And it says and then the Sifri brings down 2 other reasons also why you don't rebuke them. But those are the 2 main reasons Rashi brings down. So when it comes to rebuking people, Moshe Rabbeinu learned from Yaakov Avinu. When did Yaakov Avinu rebuke the sons? Right before he was going to die. Right before he died, he rebuked the sons. Why do you wait there? Number 1, so you don't repeat it. There's nothing as annoying as somebody, yeah, you told me already. I know, I did wrong. Okay. You told me. Yeah, you mentioned that already. Yes. And number 2, so that the other person isn't embarrassed. The other person shouldn't be embarrassed that when they see you, who you happen to know, you know their flaw. You let them know that you know their flaw. So then it could be that's embarrassing. Okay. So Moshe Rabbeinu, what's the common denominator with the bee? The bee stings and then the bee dies. So Moshe Rabbeinu knows to wait until close to death before he rebukes the Jewish people. Now, that is as far as the rebuke. You see the 5th letter on the page. Now go back to the beginning of the parsha. Eila hadvorim. Eila hadvorim. If you start from that base, you see where it says Eila hadvorim? Anybody see that? Everybody see that base? Okay. If you count 613 letters from start doing that. All right. If you start from 613 letters, you get bracha. From here, the next letter is going to be a resh. The letter 613. What's the significance of 613? The mitzvahs in the Torah. 613 letters from there is going to be a chaf, and 613 letters therefore is going to be a hey. Give you some homework to do tonight. Start counting letters, right? In other words, there's rebuke over here, but contained in the rebuke is a bracha. There's a bracha. You see where I'm talking about? The 5th letter on the page. Eila Dvorim, the 6th letter on the page is a base. If you count 613 letters from there, you're going to get a resh. 613 letters from there, you're going to get a chaf, and 613 letters from there, you get a hey, in that sequence. Who discovered that? It was not a computer. How do you like that? It was not a computer. It was Rabbi Weissmandel, who was one of the Rabbi Weissmandel, who was he escaped. He jumped off a train on the way to one of the death camps, and he was involved in saving Jews. He was in Slovakia in a cave trying to communicate and save Jews, and he himself was a Torah genius, and he discovered that. I don't know how he discovered that, I don't know what gave him the idea to count 613 letters. You actually going to do that, Daniel? You're going to count 613 letters. There you go.
Do you have a theory, or he just like?
What's that?
Do you have a theory that proves something? Like he knew this was like, oh.
I don't know. It's not clear because he discovered a few other things also, some remarkable stuff, which they only later discovered with the computers. And where he got the idea and whether he I don't know. I don't know. Because he came up with some with the menorah also with 49 at skips of 49. He came up with all sorts of stuff, and he did not have a computer. So I don't know. I don't know if he had an idea or he had a sense or he had Ruach HaKodesh. It's not clear. The Stipler said that it must have been Ruach HaKodesh. This is the Stipler said. But I don't know. I'm just telling you it's an interesting thing. And then when people say, well, the Torah was written by a human being, so that's why we say we think not. It's too far removed. It's too ridiculous to even contemplate that a human being could have arranged things in such an order. Okay, now, if you take a look at, let's see the Rashis. Now we're going to have to do this, gentlemen. It'll be a little bit painstaking, but we're going to have to do it anyway. Take a look at the right column, 6 lines from the top. Bamidbar. You see where it is? 6 lines from the top, first word. On page 930, in Rashi. Bamidbar, if you find it, please show the person next to you. Lo bamidbar hayu, they weren't in the midbar, elo ba'arvos moav. Why does it say, it sounds from the text like Moshe spoke to the Jewish people in the midbar. They weren't in the midbar. They weren't in the midbar, they were in Arvos Moav. They were on the outskirts of Moav. Umahu bamidbar, so why does the Torah say he spoke to them in the midbar? This was the rebuke. The rebuke, in other words, again, what's happening here is Moshe Rabbeinu is mentioning the names of places. The name of the place is for instance, if I say to you, tavern, bar, or if Las Vegas. Right? You know about that? Cincinnati. Ooh, that too. Denver. Oh, I can't believe it, right? And, how do you know about all these places? One place I was counterfeiting, the other place I got drunk, the third place I beat up a cop. How do you know about these things? And I'm just mentioning. All I said was the place. I didn't say anything. So all I said was Cincinnati. Oh man, how do you know about that? That's what Moshe Rabbeinu does. But what happened? Umau bamidbar, ella bishvil mashe hikisu bamidbar. Where they provoked God. They got God angry with the midbar. How? She'amru mi yitain musenu. They said, oi, we wish we would die in the desert, not have to go to get slaughtered in Eretz Yisrael. They used the word midbar was an insult to God, because God said, I'm taking you to the land of Israel. Ba'arava, what did they do there? Shechotu beBaal Peor. They sinned with Baal Peor. Bashitim, that was the name of the place. Be'arvos Moav. So that mentions as soon as Moshe said, it's sometimes in life you just say, noodles. Oh man, he knows about that incident with the noodles. How do you know that? Or just say, snort. How does he know I've been snorting? That sort of thing. And say something, all you got to do is allude to something. Mol Suf. Al-Mashihim Rubi Yamsuf, what they did wrong at Yamsuf. Bivoam li Yamsuf, what did the Jewish people do wrong at Yamsuf? She'amru, they said, Hamibli ein kvarim b'Mitzrayim, what, there aren't graves in Egypt? You brought us out to kill us at the sea? And so in all of these places, there's something that the Jewish people do wrong. Now the next one is very interesting. 6 lines from the bottom. Bein paronu vein tofel lovan. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Chazarnu al kol mikra. We went through all of the psukim. V'lo matzinu makom sheshmo tofel v'lavan. Moshe Rabbeinu mentions tofel and lavan. There is no place like that. Ela hochichan al dvorim shetoflu alaman shehu lavan. Moshe Rabbeinu was rebuking them for casting aspersions on the manna, which was white. V'amru, they said, Nafshenu kotza b'lechem haklokel. We're sick of this insignificant fruit. We're sick of this insignificant bread. Val Masha Osuban Midbar Paranali, they are Meraglim. And so on and so forth. He gives them all these rebuke. Then he says like this, and this is the one I wanted to get to. 3 lines from them. V'chatzeros b'machlukaso shel Korach. In the fight of Korach. Davar acher amar lahem haya lachem lilmod mima she'asisi leMiriam b'chatzeros b'shvil loshen hara. So you also messed up in Chatzeros because of the fight with Korach. V'di zahav hochichan ala egel she'asu b'shvil rozav shalom. He rebuked them regarding the golden calf because of all the gold that they had. Di zahav can be read as Dai Zahav, because of the gold. So one of the things the commentaries ask over here is in the order of events. In the order of events, which took place? Which took place first, Korach or the golden calf? Golden calf took place. So why is Korach placed first? Why is Korach placed first in the order of events? No, because the other events were all in chronological order. Why is Korach placed first in the order of before the golden calf?
Is he building up to something?
Yes, you're building up to something. In other words, sometimes in life, when I used to get nailed like this all the time. You know, if I didn't do something I was supposed to do, and or I did something I shouldn't have done. So my father, all of a sudden, was a master. He would wait to trap me. And he would trap me in a contradiction. Like, he would find, like I was supposed to get somewhere and do something. I didn't have, it was always, but he was a master. Sometimes he even set up the situation. And he would nail me good and proper. And he would get, like, I was supposed to do something, but, I forgot about that. And then there would be something, you didn't forget about that. How is it you didn't forget about that? Or I didn't have energy for that. All of a sudden now you've got energy. I thought you said you didn't have any energy. I'm lying in bed. Could you do this right? Could you vacuum clean? I haven't got energy. All of a sudden there's a phone call. Hey, you want to come? We got a gym. We're playing. Oh yeah, once I'll be there. You say, you're not going anywhere. You tell me you don't have energy. That sort of thing. A master at it. Absolutely. Okay. What happens with Korach? Moshe Rabbeinu has told them everything. The Jewish people come along, and Korach creates a doubt in the mind of the Jewish people. I don't believe it. Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen, and Aaron, everything else. Then Moshe Rabbeinu, you don't believe. All of a sudden, you got doubts about Moshe Rabbeinu. Then comes along Aaron with a golden calf. That everybody, all of a sudden, that nonsense you believe? That nonsense you do. What you should have believed, you didn't believe it. What you didn't believe, you shouldn't believe, you do believe. Korach, here, you didn't believe it. And all of a sudden, so it'd be one thing if you believed in all nonsense. So if you believed in A, you believe this, and you believe in the golden calf. Okay, you're just a gullible, naive, whatever word you want to use. Here, where Moshe Rabbeinu's got all the credibility, him you don't believe in, Korach creates a doubt on Moshe Rabbeinu, yet when there's a golden calf, that you do believe. That's why you find people, sometimes I've been in cabs, people have good luck charms. You ever been in a cab, they got a rabbit's foot is hanging there, or a soccer ball, or something is dangling, people believe in all sorts of nonsense and superstition. A mezuzah, that no. A mezuzah, they know that. Tefillin, no. Tefillin, that they don't believe in. Only the things you shouldn't believe in. You understand? It creates even more, it's even worse. Even worse. That nonsense you believe in, so it's one thing if you believe in all nonsense. But here you're doubting Moshe Rabbeinu, which is legitimate, and then you go and you jump on the golden calf, which is not legitimate. And this is very much what we find today, where all the good things are bad and all the bad things are good. All the good. It's one thing if you reject everything. I reject this, I reject that, I reject everything. Here, you reject the good things, you reject decency, and you grab on to all sorts of terror, all sorts of rotten behavior. And therefore that it magnifies the misdeed. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Bey, it's a very important life lesson. Achadasar yom mechorev derech har seir ad kanesh barnea. Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people, you know what? It was 11 days from Chorev, which is where they got the Torah, till through Har Seir to Kadesh Barnea. That was on the border of Eretz Yisrael. It would have been an 11-day journey. And not only was it an 11-day journey, the Jewish people traveled it in 3 days. Yet Hashem has obviously done a miracle for you. And what happened at that point? The incident with the spies. Oh man, you were there. It's an 11-day journey. God took you in 3 days. You're ready to go into the land of Israel. And what did you do? You messed up and got 40 years in the desert. You were right there. You were right there. And you messed up. Take a look at Rashi. Take a look at Rashi. Left column. Achadasar yom mechorev. So left column, second line from the top. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Shouldn't be too hard, by the way. The instructions are not that complicated. Second, left column, second line from the top. Should be pretty clear. Achadasar yom mechorev. It's like on the airplanes when they have the, well, nowadays they just put on a video. But it used to be, they demonstrate the safety features and they show you how to put on a seatbelt. You know, in case you've never ever put a seatbelt on in your life. So somebody demonstrates this. You know, you ever wonder about that? Yeah. I always wondered about when they talk about in the unlikely event of a water landing. I never like hearing that. If it's so unlikely, why are you talking about it? You know, I've never been on a bus and they say, well, in the unlikely event where the bus goes off a bridge, and that they never talk about. But, you know, they talk about the unlikely event of a water landing. So unlikely. Yeah, I don't know, yeah, okay. You didn't talk about in the unlikely event we end up on Mars. What we're going to do, you pull down your oxygen. That they don't talk about, only the water landing. So I'm not so sure how unlikely it is. Achadasar yom mechorev. Amar le'am Moshe, re'u ma garamtem. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention carefully. This is such an important life lesson. Look what you caused. Ein lechem derech. Look what you caused. Ein lechem derech tzara mechorev leKadesh Barnea ka'derech har seir. There's no shorter way to get to Kadesh Barnea than cutting through Seir. Ve'afu malach echadasar yom. That would have taken 11 days. Ve'atem alachtem osa b'shlosha yomim. You went it in 3 days. Now skip down 2 lines. Skip down 2 lines. Uvechav tes Sivan sholchu es hameraglim mikadesh Barnea. They sent the meraglim. So it turns out. Now skip another 2 lines. Nimtza b'shlosha yamim hochu kolos haderech. They went an 11-day journey with women, children, in 3 days. Kol kach ha'isa shchina mislabetas b'shvilchem lemahir biyaschem la'aretz. The divine presence wanted to bring you in. Ubishvil shekilkaltem, because you messed up. Heisev eschem svivos har seir arboim shana. It took you around Har Seir for 40 years. In life, it sometimes happens that a person is very close to a salvation. Sometimes everybody's got a problem. It could be a financial problem. It could be a health issue. It could be something. Often it happens that a person is close to a salvation. A person has an issue and they're close to having the issue resolved. And it's being resolved. Hashem is helping them to resolve the issue. And then what happens? The person interferes with Hashem. A person decides to get involved himself. If you would have just step aside and let the Ribono Shel Olam run his world, so then a person sometimes pushes away his own salvation. A person could be, you could have, we get, you know when that happens? When a person gets panicky. A person starts to panic. Panic means that a person has lost their trust in God. And at the point that a person loses their trust in God, then a person could actually push away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have said, if you would have just do what you're supposed to do, don't try to help me out by helping me out your message. Did that ever happen to you? That you decided to make that take that one extra step? They say that the great artist knows when to quit.
That's with shaving, no?
What's that?
When you're shaving, you're like, hey, just get this one bit, let's
It just stop. That's right. They messed up. And the great artist knows when to quit. And sometimes in life, a person has to know, don't make any other effort. Don't help them out. I was going to do it for you. Because you got involved, I'm not going to be involved anymore. I was going to take care of it for you. This happens when you trust people. Somebody says to you, can you do me? You trust somebody, and then you're looking over their shoulder, and you decide to get involved and help out, and what you do is it's too much. And you push away. A person could push away their own salvation. A person could have a Yeshua is waiting for them, and a person pushes it away themselves. It could be there's somebody who's an expert. Experts don't like to talk about what they're doing. If you go to a doctor, a guy once went to the doctor recommended either a medicine, or he said, how come I should do this? The doctor said, 6 years of why should I do this? He said, because 6 years of medical school, that's why. Now, I'm not going to explain to you. You're paying me to help you out. I'm a doctor. This is what I'm telling you to do. Why? I don't understand. Well, go to medical school for 6 years and you'll understand. So I'll go home and I'm going to help the doctor out. Doctor gives a treatment. I'm going to help the doctor out. He told me to take a certain course of medication and I'm going to add something else. Then you're still not feeling well. And you come back to the doctor, you say to the doctor, what went wrong? He said, well, what did you do? Well, I added my own antibiotic also. Doctor says, well, that antibiotic counteracts the medicine that I gave you. And if you wouldn't have gotten involved, you would have touched it, it would have been fine. I once had a throat infection of some sort. And I went to a doctor. One doctor in Yerushalayim was known as he was the expert, and he told me to take a certain antibiotic for 12 days. The course until 12 days. So I took it, no relief. 10 days, no relief. I called him up. It was either the 10th day or the 11th day, and I called him up. I said, "Listen, I'm taking it 10 days. There's absolutely no change." He said to me, "I told you 12 days." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to take it." Click. 12 days. Day 12, like a newborn baby. Day 12, woke up. He said he called it, but like that, like got on the dot, on the 12 days on the dot. So sometimes in life, don't help the Ribono Shel Olam. Get out of his way. Get out. Obviously, we have to behave responsibly. Obviously, we have to do our regular shtadlus. Don't go over. Don't go over. The famous story, the Chafetz Chaim. I think it's very famous story. The Chafetz Chaim says. There's a king, and this king there's another king who's a competitor of his. They're at each other. So he sends a message to this other king. He sends a messenger to the other king. He says, "Here, I want you to deliver this to the king. Just do me one favor. Do me one favor. No matter what happens, do not make any wagers with that king. Whatever happens, do not make any bets with that king." Messenger says, "Okay." And he goes to the king, and he says to the king, he comes back, he says, "How was the trip?" He says, "The trip was very successful." He says, "Why was it successful?" He says, "I won $1 million for you." The king gets nervous. He said, "How did you win that $1 million?" He says, "Well, I was standing there in front of the other king, and he looked at me and he said, 'Wow, I think you got a pretty nice tattoo on your chest.' And I said to him, 'I don't have a tattoo on my chest.' He says, 'Yeah, I think you have a tattoo on your chest.' I don't have any tattoo on my chest. He says, 'I'll bet $1 million to your king that you do have a tattoo on your chest.' He says, 'That's an easy million.' I know he told me not to bet, but this is an easy $1 billion, right? He says, I'll take it on. He says, 'Okay, well, just take off your shirt and let's see.' So he pulls off his shirt, and sure enough, no tattoo. So the guy says, 'Oh, my bad. Here's $1 million for your king.' Comes back to the king, he says, 'Yeah, $1 million. He says, 'You fool.' He says, 'Why am I a fool?' He says, 'Because I bet that king $10 million that he wouldn't be able to get one of my subjects to pull his shirt off in front of his royal court. You cost me $9 million, you dork.'" Because we're going to just follow instructions. Just follow there. Don't help them out. Don't help them out. Just do what we're supposed to do. Don't help them out. Okay. Now, Puzzle Gimel. Vahi be'arbaim shana, watch how fickle we are, gentlemen. Vahi be'arbaim shana, in the 40th year, ba'ashtei osar chodesh, in the 11th month, be'echad lachodesh, diber Moshe el b'nei Yisrael kecha asher tziva Hashem aleim. Moshe speaks to the Jewish people. When was this? All of a sudden, the Torah interjects, Acharei hakoso esichon melech ha'amori asher Yosef v'cheshbon, after he smited? Smitten is the, boy, you're also violent. Right. After he had smitten, thank you, yes. After he killed Sichon, the king of the Amori, who is in Cheshbon, the Og Melech HaBashan Asher Yoshev Be'ashtaros Be'edrei, after he killed Sichon and Og. Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to rebuke the Jewish people after. Now, if you're paying attention to the Torah and you were there last week in last week's Parsha, we know that he killed Sichon and Og. Why is the Torah repeating this? After Moshe Rabbeinu, after he killed Sichon and Og, do you have a Chumash over there? Good. After he killed Sichon and Og, he goes and he speaks and gives them this rebuke. Why? Says Rashi, it's really, this is such an insight into human nature. It's unbelievable. Says Rashi, Acharei hakoso, top column, top right column, page 940. Acharei hakoso, says Rashi, Omar Moshe. Moshe said to himself, look, Imani mochichad kodem sheikones luksei haaretz. If I rebuke them before we get to the edge, before we get close to coming into Eretz Yisrael, before I kill Sichon and Og, Yobru maza aleinu. What's he got on us? Ma'etiv lanu. What good has he done for us? You hear what Moshe Rabbeinu is worried about? What has he done for you? He got you out of Egypt. He stopped your babies from being thrown into the Nile. He brought you down to Torah. He supported you for 40 years in the desert. Hey, I got news for you. Mana or no man, supporting a family for 40 years is a long time. The average teenager, I think, costs, at one study, to raise a kid to 18 years old costs several $100,000. And every father is tempted to say, hey kid, that's a loan, that's not a handout.
That's without fail.
Yeah, that's before the real expenses started. You're like, Moshe Rabbeinu, I mean, what kind of ingrates? Moshe Rabbeinu said, I better not rebuke her, because then they're going to say, well, what have you done for us? What have I done for you? You wouldn't be here right now if not for me.
Some of them aren't there.
The answer is, some aren't. Yeah, the ones who died are not there. They're very not there. The answer is that when you're going to rebuke somebody, it's got to be that a person feels that you've done something. What have you done for me today? Don't sports teams sometimes get booed when they're on a losing streak? I mean, this is your team. This is your better. You love these guys more than your family, and you're booing them? Sure, because you're not playing well. What have you done for me today? Moshe Rabbeinu, the Jewish people have very short-term memory when it comes to good things. For the negative, do we remember? But the good things sometimes we forget. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, before anything, I'll have to knock off Sichon and Og. Now I could come to them with something that I present them with. See what I just did for you? Now maybe you could. This is psychologically, you should know that when giving somebody rebuke, when we rebuke, what is tochacha? What does it mean to rebuke somebody? The Hebrew word is tochacha. Tochacha is very much related to the Hebrew word nochach. Shivchi kamayim, the pasuk says, Shivchi kamayim libech, pour out your heart like water. Nochach pnei Hashem, in front of God. The ultimate rebuke, the most effective rebuke, problem is when we say the word rebuke, you're picturing somebody, getting in your face, with pointing a finger at you, that sort of thing. That's what we think of rebuke. Rebuke is really mean we want to correct somebody. And the best way to correct somebody is by placing them in front of themselves. What does that mean? This is you, this is what your potential is, and this is what you're coming up short. You're not living up to what you could do. That's why sometimes the best way to rebuke a child, especially a frum kid, let's say a frum kid puts food in his mouth without making a bracha. You say, a boy like you doesn't do that. You hear what you've done? You hear what you've just said to him? A boy like you doesn't do that. So you've picked him up. You've picked him up, not you little shaggot. A boy like you doesn't do that. My grandsons were just at the house, by the way. If you want to see, if you think war-torn Europe looked like, you should see what my house looked like after Shabbos. And when my grandchildren got finished with the place, I had 4 families over. Boy, oh boy, did they trash the joint. And I give out the candy. That's Zadie's job. I give out the candy and get yelled at by all the daughters and daughters-in-law. They no, it's too much sugar. Oh, don't tell me what to do. Yeah. And so I purposely get the ones that got as much food coloring and sugar in it as possible. Because that's the way I get my sweet revenge at everybody in the family. Give it to the kid. The kids get wired, and I tell them, take care of the kids. They're out of control, will you? Get them all wired up. Yeah. My wife puts me on a limit. She said, no, they have to eat something serious, right? Okay. Motzei Shabbos, right after Havdalah, when everybody was tired and just everybody, and I said, okay, guys, one more good thing, and they all came in. Yeah, I gave them out this long, colorful sugar thing, just full of food. It was great. Then I booked out of the house. So the what do you call it? When I give it to them, I say, make a bracha. Make a bracha before I make a bracha. Not rebuke, just a reminder. Let the kids have to learn from the early age. 2-year-old, that's no, don't put food in your mouth. Make a bracha. But if you're going to rebuke him for doing something wrong, a boy like you doesn't do that. A person like you, I'd expected better. From you, I expected better. You're picking him up at the same time. You're lifting him at the same time. As opposed to you, no good, that. What does it mean? I'm placing you in front of yourself. This is your potential, and this is what I expect from you. So Moshe Rabbeinu, when you rebuke somebody, by the way, you should always, first of all, I think I mentioned to you once in the book, How to Win Friends and Manipulate People by Dale Carnegie. And Influence People, sorry. How to Win Friends and Manipulate People. Yeah, it's a great book. It's a great book. There's only one thing about the book that veers off of a Torah. I've read the book a number of times, and there's nothing in there that I saw which is not consistent with Torah values. I know Talmidei Chachamim who read the book, right? There's only one thing about the book that tells you it's not a Torah book. You know what it is? The very cover of the book. Huh? No idols. No, that's the cover of the book, the advertisement cover. What's the blurb before the. Now you can succeed. Now you too can get ahead. Now you too can get the job you want. Now you can this. Now it's all about you. Be nice to him for you. That's not the Torah attitude. The Torah attitude is be nice because Hashem said to be nice. Because it's a mitzvah to be nice. It's a mitzvah to be considerate. Not be considerate because there's something in it for you. I actually I felt terrible about this. I didn't feel terrible. My wife felt terrible. I felt terrible. I felt great. I was in the bank years ago, and I needed a loan or an approval on some sort of something or other. So I went to they said, go speak to so-and-so, he's in a certain office. So I go in, and I decided I'd just been reading the books. I said, let's try this. Let's try this and see what happens. So I said, hi, I need approval for what do you call it? So the guy pulls out the ledger to see if I qualify. And I said, wow, you must have millions of dollars going through your hands. I mean, this is really a job. You got some sort of responsibility here. And I can see the guy grows 6 inches as I say it. And he goes, yeah, you got the approval. And my wife said to me, well, did you feel like a rat doing that? Or feel dishonest? I said, no. He does have a responsibility, but it's amazing. The effect is amazing. The effect is amazing. When you rebuke somebody, see, if you start by saying, listen, you're a good guy, but, then I know that wasn't why you said I'm a good guy. You should end with the good.
It's a psychology thing when you're saying something, if you want to correct them, you say the bad thing first and then they're left with the positive note at the end.
That's right. Leave with the positive. Don't begin with the positive. And in the book, by the way, he says, change from but to and. That's very important. Listen, you got a 64 on the test, but I expected better. That's different than you got a 64 on the test, and if you'd study a little more, you could improve your grades even more. Then it becomes softer. You just got to remember to do it. You have the presence of mind to do it. So Moshe Rabbeinu understands that he's going to have to do. First, I got to do something with Jews. Now, let's take this deeper. What is the nation of Sichon? Look at the 2 lines from the top in the Chumash. Sichon melech ha'emori, asher yoshev becheshbon. He dwells in a place called Cheshbon. What does Cheshbon mean in Hebrew, gentlemen? Accounting, a calculation. Ve'ez og melech habashan asher yoshev be'ashtaros be'edrei. You know what an edrei is in Aramaic? Is an arm. An arm. That means that Moshe Rabbeinu, before entering the land of Israel, he kills Sichon and Og. What's he doing? He's weakening the spiritual forces of intellectual corruption and physical corruption, the mind and the arm. And there's no accident, gentlemen, that we put on tefillin. Where do we put it on? Put it on the head, and we put it on our arm to counteract the head and the arm, the thought process and the actions, to be influenced by the Shem Hashem, to have influence on us. And Moshe Rabbeinu, therefore, he goes and he kills Sichon and Og symbolically, because it's the last thing he's going to do for the Jewish people before they go into the land of Israel. It's that last shot to weaken the forces of evil that represented by thought process and by the physical, by the arm, which is the doing to weaken the doing process. One more pasuk. Be'ever hayardein hoel Moshe Rabbeinu be'er es haTorah azos. Moshe Rabbeinu, on the other side of Rabbi, he clarifies this Torah. Lamor. Now, what did he do? How did Moshe Rabbeinu clarify the Torah? Take a look at Rashi. Hoel hischil kamoina be'er es haTorah, says Rashi, b'shivim lashon Perushalayim. 70 languages. Whew. 70 languages. I'm not clear exactly how he did that. And he starts telling over the Torah in 70 languages. Whatever that means. First of all, be'er means to clarify, is the same letters as a be'er, which is a well. Which means Moshe Rabbeinu is an overflowing well of wisdom at this point. He's an overflowing well of wisdom. Well, what's the 70 languages? However you do it. I don't know how many languages you know. How many languages do you know? How many? Who? Anybody in here? Hebrew. We all. Let's say how many languages we got in this room. We got Hebrew, English. Anybody know Yiddish? No Yiddish, huh? I didn't either. You got Yiddish? Thomas, you know Yiddish? Yiddish. My parents spoke Yiddish when they didn't want me to understand. There was Yiddish meant something. Something was either very, very good or something wasn't good. Usually it was good, because when it wasn't good, it was clear English. Yeah, it was pretty clear English. And my father also used sign language. There was what do you call it? So much of it used 70 languages over here. 70 languages. What does that mean? What's the idea? We understand that there are 70 nations. There are 70 core nations. Then they split off into various subgroups and subdivisions. But it's said to be 70 nations. What does that represent? It represents the entire world. Moshe Rabbeinu clarifies the Torah and says, come on, gentlemen, you don't get this? You don't get this? What does 70 languages mean? That means that the Jewish people may have to go places where they're going to be speaking different languages. And even there, Torah applies. No matter where you go, where they speak a different language. You could be in France, you could be in Sweden, you could be in in America, and you could be in Brooklyn, where they speak a different language, right? It doesn't matter. Wherever you go, Torah applies. Torah is not limited to one place. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling you right over here, by the way, one day you may go off into exile. And wherever you go, by the way, wherever you go, there are Jews. No matter where you go. Somebody once said it's terrible. Somebody once said that there isn't a cliff in the world that an Israeli hasn't fallen off of. You know, it's terrible. You read in the news that if there was a bus everywhere you go, they're in South America, Bolivia, there's some sort of disaster. There were 2 Israelis there. It's terrible. It's not funny, but they're all over the world. Jews are all over the world. No matter where you go, there's a Jew somewhere. Wherever you go, there's a Jew, and if there's a Jew, there's a Chinese restaurant, right? Everywhere you go. There's
sent the Mars rover, and they received the first photos. The first photo that they received was a picture of a Chabad house.
on Mars, yeah, probably. A Chabad house, a mikveh, a shul, and a Chinese restaurant. That's how you know you're in a Jewish neighborhood. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes and he clarifies the Torah. He clarifies the Torah in 70 languages. Now, last point. Ho'il. You're going to like this. But you have to see it inside. Ho'il Moshe Be'er es Torah zos lemor. Okay, Rachmi, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Moshe Rabbeinu is going to clarify the Torah. When you're learning Gemara, so sometimes the Gemara says teku. You ever got to that where the Gemara says teku? The Gemara says teku. What does teku mean? It stands. And we were always taught teku stands for tishbi. In other words, the Gemara has an argument. The Gemara says, well, he says like this, he says, what's the halacha? The Gemara sometimes concludes teku. Taf, yud, kuf, vav. Teku, which means it stands. The argument's not resolved. The brother of the Maharal says that teku, when the Gemara says teku, it stands for Tishbi. Who's Tishbi? Eliyahu Navi is called Eliyahu Tishbi. Yitaretz will resolve kushios, difficulties, ve'ibayos, and questions. That's what teku stands for. Taf, Yud, Kuf, Vav. Literally means it stands. The Maharal's brother says it stands for Eliyahu Navi will answer all the difficulties. Moshe Rabbeinu Ho'il Moshe Be'er. Moshe clarifies the Torah. Look at that word Ho'il, gentlemen. Rearrange the letters of the word Ho'il. What do you get? Eliyahu. Eliyahu. You want clarification of the Torah? There's Eliyahu Navi to clarify the Torah for us. So by the way, in modern Hebrew, teku means a tie. They use teku to mean a tie in a game. Teku, it's a tie. Because in the Gemara, teku means it was unresolved. The Gemara doesn't come to a conclusion.
What's Ho'il literal translation?
What's that? Ho'il, I think in this context, is began. Moshe takes the initiative to clarify the Torah. Okay. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Daniel. Call it 70 languages.